9:30, I'd like to call the Athabasca County Council meeting for Tuesday, March 14th to order. Did you see? It's Tuesday, May 14th. Apologies. The first thing we'd like to do as we convene is to have Chief Shalapai introduce a new colleague at the county.
I'd like to introduce our new Regional Deputy Chief, Chris Turcotte. Chris comes to us from RMWB and a few other locations, but he spent the majority of his career up at Fort Mac. And we're very, very happy to have him here as we move forward on the Master Plan Service Review.
Welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us. Well, we're not supposed to clap once the meeting's convened. So we'll have to tell him that so he doesn't feel like no. First item of business is the approval of the agenda. The items that must be discussed are 2.1, 3.1, 5.1, 7.1, I'd like to add 7.2, 7.3, all of item 8, that's 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, 8.6. It's a pretty heavy day on the bylaw front. 9.1, then we've got 13.1, 13.2. We're going to add CAO update as 13.3 under section 23, advice from officials. And that's what I have on the list. Is there any other additions or deletions going around the table? Councillor Minns, Holland?
Thank you. 7.8.
7 point. Councillor Holland wants 7.8.
Thank you.
Councillor Chamzik.
11.1T, please.
11.1T. Councillor Wallach. Oh, Anderson, Kapatanik. Councillor Gerlich or Cromwell. Councillor Cromwell.
Move as amended.
Councillor Cromwell has moved the minutes as amended, or the adoption of the agenda as amended. So just going over it so that everybody has the same list. 2.1, 3.1, 5.1, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 8.1, 7.8 as well, 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, 8.6, 9.1, 11.1T, and 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3. Is there any discussion on the question of the adoption of the agenda as amended? All those in favor? The vote is 9-0 and the agenda is adopted. Councillor Anderson.
I move to recess the county council meeting and proceed with public hearing.
Councillor Anderson has moved to recess the county council meeting and proceed with public hearing for bylaw 005-2024. Is there any discussion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? The count is 9 opposed. Count is 9-0 and the county council meeting is in recess. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. I'm Brian Hall, Reeve at Athabasca County, and I'll be the chair for the hearing. On behalf of council, I would like to welcome everyone here today. All of council is present, and I'd like to take a moment for introductions. We will do that beginning in the front. We have the CAO, Mr. Bob Beck. We have the recording secretary, Ms. Blair. Communications coordinator, Mr. Schenkelberg. Council Minns.
Rob Minns, Councillor Division 8, Baptiste Lake, Island Lake area.
Good morning, Tracy Holland, Division 5, which is east of Athabasca for Pax and Amber Valley areas.
Kelly Chamzik, Division 7, Grassland, Atmore, Crossvita area.
Good morning, Division 9, Camille Wallach.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in Division 3.
Good morning, Natasha Kaptanik, Division 2.
Good morning, Joe Gerlach, Division 1, Rochester Parrot 11.
And good morning, Gary Cromwell, the far north, the most beautiful part of the county, Division 6.
So the secretary of the hearing is Bob Beck, who is also the CAO for Athabasca County. All persons who have joined the meeting via Zoom or in person are invited and wishing to be heard should give their full name now. Monique, you're hoping to speak? Okay, so We'll enter your name and as Monique Mossich in the record, and you can have a spot to speak later if you want. Is there anyone joining us on Zoom? Nope. The public hearing for bylaw 005-2024 is now open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this public hearing is for Athabasca Council of the County to hear testimony from interested parties. It is not meant to be a debate between presenters, and all comments must be directed to council through the chairperson. Only one person may speak at a time, and each person wishing to provide input to council will have the opportunity to do so. The ground rules of the hearing and the order of speaking will be Director of Community Protective Services, Krista Wilkinson, will speak first to outline the background, provide an explanation of bylaw 005-2024. Members of the public who are wishing to be heard will be given the opportunity to speak. Director Wilkinson will be given the opportunity to present closing remarks or address any of the issues presented. Councilors will be given the opportunity to ask questions. Council will then end the public hearing and will later consider the information received at the public hearing. Council will only consider matters raised at the hearing, and only councilors may ask questions of speakers during the hearing. If any persons want to ask questions of a speaker, they must ask the chair to ask the question on their behalf during their presentation, and the chair will only ask the question if the chair wishes to have an answer in order to undertake its consideration.
Before hearing from the public, I would ask Director Wilkinson to provide background and explanation for the proposed bylaw. Director Wilkinson, the floor is yours.
Good morning. So first reading of this bylaw was approved on April 9th. And this amendment to the land use bylaw is to redistrict a portion of the northwest of 27 from agriculture district to campground commercial, the C5 district. Applicant is looking to do some further development on the existing campground. This bylaw amendment covers the area currently utilized by the campground. Campground was developed prior to the C5 district being implemented. And so for development accessory to the campground to be considered, the land use bylaw needs to be amended. So a portion of the northwest of 27 where the campground is developed, they're asking to redistrict to the C5 district so that they can do further development. I believe in this case, it's for a deck. So any new development has to be within that new district. So that's what we're looking for today.
Does council have any questions or points of clarification they wish to ask the director? Director, are there any written materials that have been submitted?
Yes, I have a few. The first one's from Pembina Pipeline Corporation. So all development needs to ensure adequate access to the pipeline right of way. Written consent from Pembina must be received before any construction across the facility or ground disturbance near the facility. Operation of a vehicle or mobile equipment across the road of right of way. Agricultural activities are permitted on or near the pipeline right of way, as long as the cultivation is less than 18 inches. Crossing agreement must be obtained prior to any planned activity that requires a crossing of the pipeline infrastructure. Before starting any ground disturbance near the right of way, one call is needed. The second one is from Director of Infrastructure. There's no concerns with the bylaw amendment. The last one is from Forestry and Parks Integrated Land Delivery, which is Alberta Environment. They have no concerns with the rezoning application, request that a referral when and if a development permit is applied for, as we would like to make sure it will not impact the Lac La Biche Wildland Provincial Park.
I will now call upon persons wishing to speak. Well, I'm out of practice. We haven't met in so long. Ms. Mossich, did you want to address the change? Okay. Does council have any other questions or points of clarification? Councillor Minns.
Just through the chair, I'm just wondering how close where's the pipeline right away compared?
It's across the field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's not a concern. It's just, we have to refer to them because it's within the quarter section.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or points of clarification? Seeing none, is there anyone else who has not spoken that wishes to speak? Is no one on Zoom? Okay. At this time, does council have any additional questions of any speaker or any of the staff? Does anyone feel they've not been fairly heard? There being no further testimony, I'll close the public hearing and further advise that council cannot receive further information on this matter. Thank you for attending the public hearing. I declare the public hearing closed at 9:41 a.m. And that means we resume council. So our delegation is scheduled for 10:30. So the next item of business is the approval of the minutes, which we've done. 7.1, operating and capital budget. Mr. Imtaz, you have a presentation you'd like to make to council.
That's correct.
The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to discuss the budget changes that we have. Doesn't want to work. Perfect. So today's agenda will include proposed changes to operating budget, followed by the proposed changes to the capital budget. Then we will be discussing the reserves, and then if the council has any questions, we can address them at that point. So under operating highlights, we have some service level increases. For emergency services, we hired a deputy fire chief. Under facilities, we hired a facilities coordinator. When it comes to assessment services, we reduced our inspection cycle from 10 years to 5 years with a full baseline 100% reassessment in the first year. Under FCSS, we hired a new counseling team leader. We also increased our mowing of cemeteries and churches by doubling our small mowing crew. We also started our landfill reclamation and capping projects and reviewing historical records of landfills totaling approximately 200,000. We also started aggressive moves towards gravel pit dispositions and reclamation compliance. Moving on to legislative budget, there were no changes to the legislative budget. As for administration budget, we increased the wages by 85,000 to account for a summer student and a admin assistant position. We also increased the professional fees by 30,000 for strategic planning consultant. Our annual assessment services decreased by 50,000 as we contracted a new assessment company. Office expenses were increased by 50,000 to bring them in line with the actuals for 2023. And then we increased the registration fees by $2,000 as per the request of the council to account for the North Alberta Alliance for Growth and Opportunities meeting. Moving on to community and protective services. Under community and protective services, we have a new budget, emergency management, that properly consolidate this function as its own. So under emergency management, there's a provincial grant that we are eligible for, which will be for 372,000. We also included professional fees of 30,000, of which 25,000 were moved from the fire protection budget and 5,000 were added as an additional expense to account for training and exercise costs. Other operating expenses of $10,000 were added for day-to-day expenses such as consumables, office supplies, job aids, and other materials. Contract expense of 20,000 was also added for consulting support. And communication expense of 30,000 is added for purchase of 10 portable AFRRCS radios. Moving on to fire protection. As I mentioned, professional fees were moved to emergency management. Other general expense decreased by $1,500. Professional development increased by $3,200. This was missed during the first draft of the budget when the second fire services position was added. Training increased by $10,000 as based on training needs assessment completed following the adoption of the new fire service bylaw. Building maintenance increased by $8,000, mainly specifically to complete the Richmond Park Fire Hall water restoration and washroom project. Vehicle maintenance increased by $2,000 to cover additional repairs and required to Rochester Fire District brush truck. General operations increased by $5,500 due to identified services, certifications, and repair requirements to self-contained breathing apparatus. Communication increased by $4,200 due to projected KITEC costs, and special projects increased by $43,500 due to higher equipment costs and identified additional equipment such as radio and app needs. Moving on to Highway 63 services, there were no changes to this budget. And as for enforcement services, we increased the contract services by $80,000, of which $70,000 was for pound services and $10,000 was for bylaw offense prosecution. And under community transportation, there were no changes made to this budget, as well as no changes, for FCSS, we increased the budget by $11,000 under general administration. This was to account for equipment, mileage, and training costs. For planning and development, there were no changes to this budget. And for Athabasca Regional Economic Development, there were also no changes. Moving on to infrastructure services. Does not want to work for me. There we go. So we combined our infrastructure and common services budget into just common services budget, mainly to align with our new GL changeover that we did in 2024. So under common services, we increased our equipment rental and repairs expense by $135,000, which includes a rental of a dozer for $45,000 and to assist in firefighting and cleanup of last year's fires, and also $90,000 for fleet tracking and GIS services. We increased the shop supply by $20,000 for tools and other supplies. Communication increase of $7,000 for greater operator phones. Small tools increased by $22,500 for small engine repair tools. And then we added a new line item for VHF and tower for $10,000. Professional services also increased by $125,000 for contractor services for dispositions. And then we also removed $400,000 for billing costs, which was internal billing, as we no longer do internal billing. Moving on to road construction and maintenance. So right-of-way maintenance increased by $58,000 to account for extra brushing. And we also moved right-of-way maintenance from agricultural services to road construction. We also increased the street lighting by $10,000 due to inflationary costs. Then moving on, Under water budget, we increased our special projects by 20,000 due to hydrant repairs. For wastewater, we increased our special project by 73,000 for Wandering River sludge removal trial. And then we also increased our vehicle rent by 6,400 due to inflationary costs. Under waste management, we increased our general expense by 137,000 for study of confirmation of existing landfills and landfill remediation work at Baptist Lake. For cemeteries, there were no changes. And for Ag Service Board, as I mentioned, we moved road maintenance to road construction. Under recreation, we increased our wages by 45,000 to account for 3 seasonals for second mowing crew. We increased our professional fees by 50,000 for updating contracts and liabilities. And we also increased the rec area development by 10,000 for dangerous tree removal. Rec area maintenance was increased by 25,000 for demolitions. And Boyle Rec Facility capital contribution increase of 71,500 for arena liners, streaming cameras, ball diamond shells, dance floor renewal. Yes. And as for library board, there were no changes. Moving on to capital budget. Under capital budget, new and proposed project, the council has been briefed on most of these, with the exception of the bridge repair that I added, which is for Alpac and some other bridges, and also vehicle addition, which includes community transportation bus, the fire truck, and the fleet upgrades. For our proposed changes to capital budget, under equipment, we included a zero-turn mower for $12,000, a heavy-duty brushing deck for $23,000, airport water tank replacement for $15,000. Under vehicles, we have facility vehicle accessories for $18,500. Under buildings, we have Rochester Senior Center for $5,000, admin building fire panels for $32,500, and new shop planning for $300,000. Under roads, we have Cape Sealing Pallet for $350,000. We also have the Plamondon Connector Paving for $3.6 million. Under utilities, we have wastewater improvements of $80,000, which include truck fill pressure control valve, hydrant flow testing equipment, additional hydrants in grassland for proper flushing, backflow prevention at truck fills, David crane for lifting pumps. Under water improvements, we have under water improvements, we have $55,000 for grassland lift station fencing and spare pump, Island Lake Lagoon Gate, confined space crane, and lift station generator. Moving on to reserves. As for reserves, currently under our operating reserves, we have about 4.7 million set aside. And as for capital reserve, we have 11.3 million. With the current budget changes, we are looking at contributing to the reserve of 1.4 million for 2024. And that is it. Any questions?
Just because I think this will come up from multiple people, are you able to talk to us a little bit about the way the financial statements created the $11 million surplus and the reporting of that? Like, that's not, some of that is related to accounting
Correct.
adjustments. Can you walk us through that, please?
Yeah, I can explain that here. So if you have the consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus on hand, I can explain what it is. It basically shows an annual surplus of 11.1 million. But that surplus is made up of 5.4 million from the difference between our revenue and expenses. So if you look at our 2023 budget, we budgeted 3.6 million as a surplus. But since there were, because of last year's fires, a lot of projects got delayed. So that surplus increased from 3.6 million to 5.4 million. So that would be our true cash surplus. But but 3.6 would be what would be your actual surplus, because those projects that got delayed will still be continued hopefully this year. And as for the 5.6 million that you see under other income, that is just a portion of income of the grant income that we are recognizing in the year. So to give you an example, when we are starting a project, a capital project, we apply for a grant, we submit a grant application. Let's just say we have a project for $1 million. We submit a grant application to the government, and once that application gets approved, we are given the go-ahead to start working on that project. But we don't receive that money right away. So we spend our own money to fund that project till we receive the money from the government. And when we receive them, let's just say we received the whole $1 million at the end of 2024 for our bridge project, but we've only done 500,000 worth of work. We can only recognize that 500,000 as income. So basically this 5.6 million is us recognizing that as income. That is not any kind of cash that we have sitting around. That's basically us just recognizing that income. So our true surplus would be 5.4 million.
Okay. Are there other questions at the table regarding the presentation or the changes? Councillor Cromwell, let's start with you. As you add comments, and you reference the page number you're talking on so we can all keep up.
I'm going to start with the presentation from our finance department. I would just like a little bit more information about the VHF and tower addition for 10,000. And then I'd like to speak about hydrant repair. So what is the VHF and tower? How does that fit?
Through the chair to Councillor Cromwell, the VHF and tower is moving and consolidating all of the different tower licenses, first of all. And second of all, for going forward, Protective Services has some radios that have been moved. Their stuff has been moved to AFRAX, and we are getting their old radios and going to be setting them up for licensing. So.
Okay, that is very simple. That was on the presentation we got just now. And then hydrant repairs, what kind of repairs are we doing to hydrants? As we realize that in a lot of our communities, we don't have them, or they are inadequate in pressure for any type of, firefighting use. What kind of money are we putting into hydrant repairs, and in what regard?
Through the chair to Councillor Cromwell, in the case of hydrant repair, we have one definitely repair in Grassland. This is not going to be upping the capacity of the lines to the hydrants for fire services. This is just simply repairing old hydrants that are no longer capable of being used actively. There are also three or four of them in Collinton, and I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4 for that. One was an iffy for Collinton that were repairs as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm good for now.
Okay, Councillor Gerlich, did you have any questions about the amendments in the budget? Councillor Kapitanek?
Question, maybe, but more of a statement, more conversation about a massive paving project. I don't really have a question. Just kind of was proposed and then it's there. So there's a little detail on that. Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Kapitaniak, during the infrastructure day that we took over all of Committee of the Whole, we did propose a major paving project. The suggestion from administration was the Plamondon Connector, as it's a long outstanding one. The proposal was a line item in this budget. It does not mean, should you approve this budget with those words, that project would be the go-ahead. It simply is a placeholder, as you would have to do a borrowing bylaw for the 2.6 million of the project. The other million is being proposed to come from the CCBF funding, previously known as gas tax.
Thank you.
I wonder if it would make sense on that subject to actually change the name of that line item so that we don't mislead anybody or create a misleading commitment. to something like paving or hard surfacing projects. Because council's not identified or agreed to that particular project. We've, I think, talked about doing some kind of project. We've not had a chance to assess it against the matrix that we have for priorities, and we still have some other things that are in the background. There's STIP funding that's outstanding related to the LPAC bridge request. So it may be important that we are able to block some cash aside for major projects, but council needs to talk about which ones are the priority, and it may be the case that the LPAC bridge, depending where that STIP application goes, needs some help. And I think also changing the name reinforces a commitment to the project, but let's council consider which one is the priority at the strat planning session. So I'd like to see the name changed on that, just because we're on that subject. Councillor Wallach.
I can't find it on my page, but I made a note of it. The Old Brick School Committee, $15,000. What is that for?
Sorry,
I'm
what was
trying
that
to find
again?
it. I've marked it
I'll
on my
come back
page.
to you then
Yeah.
on that. If you look for it. Councillor Chamzik, questions? Councillor Holland, questions?
Thank you. On page 36 of our agenda, 3 of the budget. I noticed the RMA conference fees at 772 per member, and that is one registration. We have 2 RMAs, so I was just curious if that will be corrected.
That's
It's
it.
number 6 in the notes.
Sorry, to the chair, Councilor Holland, what did you say it should be?
Sure. On page 3.
Yep.
In number 6 of the registration fees notes, the RMA conference fees mentioned 772 per member. That would cover 1 conference per member when there's 2 conferences per member. So there's a spring and a fall. So just curious about that one.
I will look into it and I'll get back to you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. If I may.
Yep, floor is yours.
I also noticed you mentioned the community transportation, there was no change. However, it did drop from 141,000 in December's budget to
You're on page-
137.
you just give it-
I'm sorry, page 33 of the budget, 66 of our agenda. Sure, it's page 33 of the agenda, page 6 or page 66 of the agenda, 33 of the budget. And so what I did notice is the transportation fees were increased a slight amount by 3,000, and then the insurance also was increased. So just a note from on your report that there was a change actually.
To the chair, yeah, that's correct. It looks like we matched it to the actuals,
Okay,
to tie in with the actuals.
okay. And I have a few more, but I have to find them, so I'll come back. Thank you.
On the transportation one, and I know today isn't the moment to get into it. It's probably more of a strat planning one, but how often do we look at the funding formula and the funding share on those? When we look at the usage of that service, the county is at like 60-something% payment and 30-something% usage. Is that something? And I just I don't remember the question during our original budget stuff, so. And you, as you're the chair,
Yeah, I'm not the chair of the committee, but with regards to the formulas, it is discussed every budget when it comes to the committee, it is discussed every time. And that is the agreement with the town. It's based basically on population.
I'm sorry.
It's from my understanding, it's based on population.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not use. Councillor Mins.
Just, yeah, a lot of them already got actually answered. Just wondering, point to ponder, under water supply, page 71 of the agenda. Under number 8, special projects. We got Wandering River Lift Station Pump Service. Would that not go under wastewater special projects? And it's a wastewater service.
Hopefully we don't use.
The lift station is sanitary sewer. You
Yeah.
are correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
no,
is in the wrong budget. Apologies, yeah.
No, no, not a problem. I just wanted to prove I read it.
But we're okay leaving, I assume we're okay leaving it with the understanding that
Oh, yeah, it'll,
it's the same
Yeah.
pot, just how
Yep.
we,
you bet.
or if it gets moved on a final print, nobody will object to it. As long as the number doesn't change.
Yeah, no, that sounds good
Is
to
that
me.
a
and-
fair? Move it to the other budget without changing the totals, we're all good with that? So there's no objections.
Perfect.
Councilman,
Other than
can't
that,
be on.
and I think that's about it for me.
Councilor Holland, you've come up with your,
Yes, I found it. Sorry about that. It's back in on
Councilman, you
page,
turn your mic off just because.
sorry, through the chair, page 3 of the agenda 36 of our agenda 3 of the budget. I was just curious, the insurance portion, number 7, other costs, D insurance, is that for vehicles or what is that insurance cover? 7 in other costs? Pardon? Is it 2 vehicle payments or 1? Because that's quite expensive for 5,000 for 1 vehicle.
This isn't a change from the original
Right.
budget, but I think, divide by 9. I thought there was the compensation package had a payment for insurance for councillor,
Oh, is that what?
Personal use
I
of
wasn't
vehicle.
sure. I wasn't sure.
but I mean,
What
we
it's
should
made up
probably
of.
look to the experts at the end of the table to confirm that. I'm
Because I
just
thought we got rid of the
speculating.
insurance thing. What we did.
To the chair, I would have to also look into it. I'm not,
Yeah, but we. didn't
yeah,
get that.
like you said, it was approved before. But I can look into it.
Yeah, that'd be great, because my question actually goes back to the van, that great big van that's used by community transportation. But it's actually a council van, so I'm wondering if the costs are not allocated to the right places.
Through the chair, I doubt that community transportation bus insurance would be in legislative budget.
Right, but the van itself seems to be not leased by community transportation from, you know what I mean? Like it's, so just making sure that it's not overlapping.
I can look into it for
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah. Councillor Chadwick? No, I just saw you had a note. I had a couple of minor questions, I think. On page 40 of your agenda, and this is not a change, and so maybe this is something we want to kick out to strat planning, but we talk about ortho photos and the habit that we have tended to have of do nothing until the year that something occurs and then spend it all in that year. I don't think is a great management practice, and I wonder if council would share my view that on something as using ortho photos as the example, that 140 is fine in 2024 because it needs to be done. But as we move forward in 2025 and 6 and 7, we should be budgeting $55,000 a year into ortho photos. And then that goes to an operating reserve so that the year they're needed, the cash is available rather than having to say, do we have the cash this year? We put a little bit aside every year, sort of like paying the amortization or the depreciation on those photos. So I'd like to see that actually in 25, 6, 7, and 8 be changed to say $55,000 a year going forward, or some number like that. It turns out it works out to exactly, well, 55 gets us right close. Sorry, on the emergency management budget, I guess, because that's a new, I think I just heard that was kind of the consolidation of a bunch of things. Just to make sure there's no the county provides emergency management services for every summer village in the region. We work with our partners in the others, and there's no cost sharing on that. So,
That's my understanding, Mr. Chairman. You are correct.
a couple of notes that I'll share with council about going to strategic planning, so those will show later. We had this change on, and again, I think this is a more appropriate discussion to kick forward to solar to strategic planning, but the change to the street lighting cost. I just want to propose to you that we think in the longer term about those kind of costs. What would happen if we took $55,000 a year and made it a loan payment on a solar project to provide the electricity to do that kind of stuff? How many years would it take to pay that off so that we, in 10 years, didn't have to pay for streetlight energy anymore? And when we're making those payments, I think we need to challenge ourselves to start thinking about how do we be smarter about these regular, recurring, stable cash flows. And if, you know, at an 11-year, well, at a 10-year payback, you're still looking at $500,000 plus, you know, a little bit of interest. That would provide a significant amount of offsetting energy and then give the gift to the future of not having a bill. I asked that question. Mr. Imtiaz, you answered most of my questions, so I'm sorry, I missed. On FCSS, do we keep track of where the users live in terms of the funding, or is it just like, do we know where everybody's from?
Yeah, FCSS is really good at tracking all the things, so that could be reported.
I actually thought I had one more corner folded, I'm sorry. On the Boyle Rec facilities one, we talked about an increase on, sorry about that, page 91 of the agenda package. Under note 16, we talk about an increase of $71,000 for other additional items in the Boyle Rec Center. And I know that the other rec center that we're a member or we participate in considered arena liners and rejected them for good reasons. And so I just struggle to automatically say, yep, let's do that, because I'm not really sure that the counties had any input in just paying for that. And so I'm on that increase, I'm not in favor of the portion that relates to the liner. And that's and then that's the, other than the comment I've already made about changing the name to hard surfacing on pages 98, 99, that's, now I think Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I do have a few questions. Page 4 of the budget, page 37 of the agenda package under administrative services. Page 4 lists the revenue from the cap levy as projected to be $10,000 for this year. While page 10 of the budget, page 67 of your agenda package, note 24, projects the annual Green Municipal and Community Initiatives grant expenditures as $10,000 this year and $50,000 annually going forward. I'm just wondering where that excess funding is coming from. So page 4 and page 10.
Through the chair, on page 10, what point, sorry, are you referring to?
It would be note 24 under the Green Municipal and Community Initiatives expenditures.
I think the question then really relates to that in our future forward budgeting, our revenue is projected at 10,000 and we're projecting 50,000 in expenses, and that doesn't align with the program. Either we have to expect to generate 50,000 in 2025, 6, 7, and 8, or we need to lower our spending. And because it's a future looking one, I just propose administration drop that 50 to a 10 to make a balance.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to address that one. Yeah, it's shown for 2025. We certainly think that needs some discussion. The uptake in payment for the cap levy has maybe not been as robust as was expected. So it's certainly noted that for 2025 and even that should be looked at. And just for explanation, Mr. Imtiaz didn't look at every line item in detail. He focused on the changes from the interim. So if it was passed in the interim, he wouldn't have spent a whole lot of time reviewing what was already approved. He focused on whatever we were proposing as changes.
And I like on behalf of council, Mr. Adil, we all know that you've stepped up and stepped into a role with not as much preparation as one would hope, and appreciate the effort that you've made to become really intimately familiar with this and understand that there's some of these individual lines in the thousands of lines that are here are going to be mysteries to you. And clearly, I think it's fair to say council missed that when we looked at it the first time. So, but I think Councillor Anderson, would it work for you to have the expense side lowered to match the revenue side?
Well, I just noticed that they lowered from our interim. It was at 50,000. They've lowered it to 10,000, which I think is much more realistic. Considering the uptake of the program, we only changed it for 2024. Going to this budget, I think it should have been changed for every year, not just the one. So
Through the chair, that's correct, because I noticed that error on there.
Okay.
If you look at the actual budget, it was actually 10,000 there, but on the points, it still said 50,000. So that's why I changed it on the points to 10,000 as well.
thank you. Also sorry, can I continue?
Yeah, the floor is yours.
On page 10 of the budget. And I don't believe this was highlighted, but doctor recruitment and retention for Boyle has increased from 10,000 to 16,000 this year. And I don't remember hearing an explanation why. But also I noticed from the interim to the final budget, the transitional house was added as a line there. And should that not be a capital purchase and not an operational purchase of a house?
It's more of an investment than capital addition. That's why it's under the operating side of things.
Sir,
Continue.
the floor is yours.
Page 58 of the agenda where we talk about the arena liner for Boyle. I just have to say, at this table, I'm opposed to paying 50% for that arena liner. On the basis that the Village of Boyle has put their logo in the middle of the arena liner, twice the size of what they're proposing to put ours. And I don't think we should pay 50% and then be treated like we're only putting in maybe 25%. So just on that basis, I'm opposed to that. And then I would also be in favor of changing on the capital budget, the Plamondon Connector paving project to just hard surfacing paving projects until we can see how that project has been ranked again or compared to some other projects within our municipality. I just want to see it compared to other projects on our matrix before we decide exactly which one would be surfaced. I don't have a problem with putting money in the budget to do something. I just think that we should not just look at one specifically. We should look at a list of them and then decide maybe that one is the one we choose, but make the informed decision based on the ranking matrix, which one we want to pursue.
To actually jump on a little bit of what Councillor Anderson is talking about, the doctor recruitment thing at Boyle, I'd really like to see is there a budget for that, or is there like a better understanding of what we're paying there? I know we pay for half the rent, but what is rent? What are we paying for?
And I think there's probably fairly widespread support around the table. My sense of getting a better understanding, and I know our CAO has talked to us about, a lot of the good faith or we'll say handshake agreements we've made with our neighbors over time. And while they've served us well, as we as a council move to push the county to what I would call operational excellence, I think a number of people here recognize the need to formalize those agreements and formalize the budgets. And so I don't know that that's something we can get like today for the budget process. And given we've already approved that, it's kind of stable. But as we get into strategic planning and other follow-up work, I think it's a good decision and a wise request.
Okay, yeah, no, and I agree with that we're not gonna find out today, but I really want that highlighted. Cause we just give $16,000 and then like, where's it go? What happens there?
Where's the reporting?
And it's, no, that's good. That's why I just wanted to discuss it a little bit more. The only other question I have is, I understand we're not saying we're gonna do all these jobs and everything, but the chips on page 63, light item 14, a chip seal of Skeleton Narrows Road in that 428,000. We'll be discussing that before that actually happens, right? Just because we throw this in here doesn't.
Director Whitley?
Through the chair to Councillor Mins, apologies, the notes in this case are wrong. It's chip seal, not of the Skeleton Narrows. It's the proposed project brought forward for Infrastructure Services Day of the
Cape Seal?
Cape Seal by the airport. The two locations. It's
Okay,
So
yeah,
is there any objection at the table to the director just changing that in the final version?
yeah, it's just under line 14 or under item 14 or
So
on
there's
63, it's got chip seal of that and
so I think, but just for, as we kind of process this, director, you're of.
Yep.
Unanimous consent to fix that typo.
okay.
Just so we don't have to add it in a motion or.
The other one that I'm wondering about through the chair would be demolition under the rec side. What does that consist of?
Give a page number.
That's under recreation.
So we have demolition, like, is it a derby or is it a?
Well, just like what are we?
So, Mr. Chairman, I know of one project. I believe we've been approached by some folks in Perryvale that some of the facilities are under review for safety and neglect. And certainly, so I know of the one for sure that it might be, we might have some others though, but there are certainly some rec facilities, they're way beyond their useful life. And right now they're a safety hazard.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Oh, thank you for that.
I just want to identify that we have two budgets, one called Recreation Services and the other one called Recreation Services, but they're not the same. So that's page 88 and 89. And I was thinking that it might be less confusing if we called one Recreation Services A and one Recreation Services B, or it'd be like if everybody in the room was named Joe, it would be very confusing when we wanted to talk. I have been in a room with 5 Brians before and it's amazing experience, but I just the titles. I mean, it's not a stop the train kind of event. I just like the title on both of those budgets is identical. So it just seems.
Mr. Chair, it's a continuation of the same budget. It just wouldn't fit on the same page, so it just flows to the next and looks like it's a brand new budget.
Going look. Still seems weird because when you'd have like revenues all at the top and then expenses underneath versus revenues, expenses, revenue. Anyway, okay,
But I will fix it.
in the end, it doesn't. Okay, other that's pretty trivial. Other questions, folks, about the budget? Councillor Gerlich, floor is yours with your microphone.
Page 10 again. I thought the $10,000 exemption to the golf course had been restored under that copter exemption.
They have not made application.
They did send a letter. We did receive a letter from them. Pardon me?
They haven't applied.
They haven't applied for the program.
No.
And it arguably, I don't know that it would actually fit then through copter. I don't think it would fit as an expense. It would fit as like it would be a reduction in tax revenue. So it wouldn't even show up in the budget this way. It would show up in our, I suspect, because it exempts them from, but the CAO is the most
Mr.
experienced.
Chair, my understanding is prior to my arrival in the fall, there was discussion about historically, there's been some sort of a grant given to the golf course. And then council chose to not renew the grant. And I could be a little bit wrong with that, but the purpose of me presenting the copter information to you just a month ago was to say that there's a process in the MGA where they can apply for a tax reduction. And that's what most places do. They avail it to groups. The deadline is September of the year, but it actually applies for the next year. So they've kind of, unless council chose to give them a grant for 2024, they've kind of missed the legislative window for a copter application for 24. So if council wanted to participate with them in some manner, it would be by way of a grant. But moving forward, they should probably be applying for a copter exemption.
Okay. So we are at 25 minutes after 10. We have a delegation coming for 10:30. Are there other questions on the budget that anybody has, or do you feel that you're in a position to receive a motion to approve the 2024 capital and operating budget, subject to the revisions that are in it and I think the 3 that we've talked about without a lot of objection? Okay. So we'll include the name change on hard surfacing, the fixing the expense side of the aggregate thing in the future forward budget to be 10,000, and spread out the future budget to 55 on ortho photos. Oh, and to take out the Boyle Arena mat.
Yeah, the Boyle
Liner.
Arena liner and just the approved amendments, removing of some of the, like there was the $10,000 for special project and from water to wastewater.
Right, that, and those movings, there was,
Yeah,
as we were moving, I asked kind of that unanimous consent piece, so those ones I've assumed are already unanimously approved because I offered
Okay.
that and nobody said it peep, so on minor typographical things, I think we're capable of just fixing them.
yeah, no, I'll make that motion, you betcha.
Okay.
I just don't
So
wanna repeat
Councillor
it.
Minns has moved that council approves the 2024 operating and capital budget with the revisions as prepared by administration and the following revisions: changing the name of the Plumonton connector line to say hard surfacing on page 10, making the adjustment for the cap levy expense from in the future budget from 10,000 to from 50,000 to 10,000. On page 7 of the budget, allocating the future budgeting of ortho photos to at 55 a year and excluding the funds for the Boyle Arena liner. And that would automatically mean that the money we don't spend there impacts the reserve contribution by whatever that cost is.
Yeah.
For the surplus. Councillor Holland.
With regards to the Plumonton connector, I don't think there's full agreement around the table. when
We can
commit
split
to
it, but I mean, I think there's been no agreement that we pave that road is the point, and we should change it to hard.
Means what exactly? Let's like, just to get that clarification or confirm.
For me, the idea is that we are still looking to pave something and commit to some kind of road surface, but I've never agreed that the Plumonton connector is the #1 priority, and council has never agreed that it's the #1 priority.
Well, I think council thinks that it, some people on council.
Well,
definitely
one or
think
two
it
might,
is,
but that's a discussion that we need to
Right.
collectively have and
Okay.
choose it, not have it be the default.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need the motion read again? Ms. Blair, do you have it typed, or do you want me to try to work through it?
Moved by Councillor Minns that council approves the 2024 operating and capital budget revisions as prepared by administration, as well as the following revisions: hard surfacing name change, cap levy expense, allocating future budget for orthophotos, and excluding funds for Boyle liner.
Councillor Hall?
Where we're missing the RMA increase for
I don't know that we were gonna change it. They were just gonna look into it. And
Okay.
I think we can come back to that one.
Yeah, in all honesty, with the amount that we will have left over from other areas, it's not
There's-
gonna, it'll work out in the wash. Thank you.
I
Mr.
think we
Chairman,
could transfer from. other
we
budgets.
still have the ability to transfer within, so we'll make sure that everyone could go to both conferences. So
And ultimately, council retains the discretion to amend any part of the expenditures of the budget that aren't contracted. We just can't adjust the revenue side after today. So you can't spend more without either touching reserves or in theory, you could do a supplemental tax levy, but that will go over like a lead balloon. But you can try it if you want. I'll vote opposed. Okay, on the adoption, is there any more discussion, sorry, on that motion? On the question of the adoption of the motion to approve the capital budget as read by Ms. Blair, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 7-2 and the operating and capital budget is approved. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll start late on the delegation and be back in our seats for 35 minutes after. 35, I'd like to reconvene the Athabasca County Council meeting for May 14th. With us, we have the delegations from the RCMP that are in our region. Want to welcome you, gentlemen, with Staff Sergeant Hall and Sergeants Simpkins and Caprese. So I gotta get Dennis' name right. Thanks for being here. The floor is yours. So I think I will dispense with introductions. We've introduced each other enough. We know you. Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning. They designated me to go first this time. No, similar. So the Athabasca detachment, we had a not too bad fourth quarter there. Let's talk a little bit about some things, current things going on with the detachment during that quarter, as well as some recent stuff that came up in a few minutes here. But for community consultation stuff, we've got I did a virtual town hall with the communities. Athabasca community, a few people showed up in that one. Not a ton of people showed up for that, but I also brought in somebody from our community policing in Edmonton, and she did a presentation on our Project Lockup and our CPTED, crime prevention by environmental design programs. And then in March, we did one of my officers did a presentation, a drug talk down in the Rochester school. Highly receptive down there. Great communication with the school down there. And as far as the fourth quarter goes, we didn't get a whole lot of any arrests for drugs. We didn't seize a lot of drugs in the communities from the communities, which is can be a good sign. There's been a lot of work still being done in the background, some investigations that were started throughout that period where we're still working on them to hopefully bring a conclusion here, but still strong effort that put forward by the detachment. As far as the second priority, which was the break and enters, we saw overall 16% decrease in property crimes. Then the break and enters dropped by 19% and thefts by 25%, reflecting our community's dedication to safety. Yeah, property crime has seen a good drop in there. As far as the Athabasca County specific to, we had 355 occurrences reported in that last quarter of 1,000, roughly 1,000 occurrences reported detachment overall. Our top 9 files were traffic collisions non-fatal, which was 77. And this is in order of top to the least. And non-moving and moving occurrences, traffic tickets, there were 35. Suspicious person, vehicle, and property, we had 33 of those. Speeding offenses, we had 30 of those. Break and enters, we had 12. And most of those did occur in the southern part of the county near Highway 827. Island Lake did see a bit of an increase in there, which speaking of Island Lake, I'll be heading out there to do a town hall and speaking with the community on some other measures. We'll be bringing in K Division as well to help out with some educational components again on that. In the assaults, we had 10, and when I reviewed all the files, everyone was known to each other. These are not random attacks. They were all either one, it was domestic violence, or it was individuals just who couldn't get along at that time. The chart that I provided there with all the statistics there, so I'm just going to reiterate from here. The above chart contains 2 sections of comparisons, January to March for 2023 and 2024. And January to December 2022 and 2023. Overall increase in persons crimes. The year-over-year comparison for January to March shows a notable increase in persons crimes from 47 incidents to 20 in 2023 to 54 in 2024. This represents a 15% rise. And this trend is consistent with the annual data showing a 9% increase from 2022 to 2023. Clearance rates continue to improve though. That means somebody's been arrested and charged in that. So in year 2022, we had 78.8% clearance rate, 2023, 82%, and 2024, 87.2%, meaning the investigations are getting a lot better in these. There was a steady increase in property crime overall. Both quarterly and annual comparisons indicate a rise in property crime with 6% increase in each period. That would include mischiefs and any of the other areas associated with property crime. Not specifically with break-in errors. Break-in errors, we had a great decrease in that area there. This past recently here, I'm sure everyone here in the room hopefully has heard about the missing person file that we've been working on consistently. Last Tuesday evening, we had some elderly female go missing from her property. We believe she's still on the property. We ran search and rescue from Wednesday until Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. We had upwards of 50 people, if not more, per day in the area searching. We had Alberta Search and Rescue helping us out. I brought in helicopters, we brought in ATVs, and we still have not located her yet. We're got some more steps we're going to move forward here with to try and see if we can locate her. But it's brought that to your attention here. That's the file still not resolved yet at this time. On the detachment side, we finally have our new corporal started last week on Wednesday. Came into a heck of a week. So new corporal here. So I have the 2 corporals working. I have 10 constables working. I had 1 start last night right from depot. He'll begin his training here for the next 6 months with directly with another officer. And my sergeant position has been filled, but they haven't sold their house yet, so the position's still vacant right now, and there's no anticipation when that's going to happen. One of my other members was going to be transferring out right away here. He's got his transfer papers. He's just looking for a house now to go down south, and I have no indication of whether or not that person's going to get filled anytime soon here. We do have some good positive news from depot that quite a few troops are coming through at full staff or full numbers. So they're getting distributed out. Now, mind you, we've gone through 2 years, at least 2 years here of, vacancies that they're going to have to consistently fill here. But I'm hopeful that we're going to get somebody put in here fairly quickly. On my public servant side, I do have 5 full public servants here working in the detachment. We're loaning one out right now to Wabasca detachment as they went through. They're going through a bit of a staffing crunch right now as well for their public servants up there. So one of mine is their acting supervisor up there right now on a part-time basis here. So, but otherwise, our vacancies rate, not horrible. We're still maintaining what we need to maintain here. I'd love to have more staff, but it is what it is right now. Still in good shape though. With that, that's it for me. I'll pass it over to one of these guys. Yeah, 2.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation to attend today. Just on a special note here, May 18th, this Saturday is National Impaired Driving Day in Canada. So every traffic member in K Division will be working. So you're going to see lots of road checks this weekend. Obviously to prevent any tragedies and any impaired driving. Special note there, I mentioned earlier, the last time I was here about the impaired driver that we intercepted on Highway 63. We had several complaints on, and it was almost a few head-on collisions with some people in the public. So if those people in the public are watching today, I just want to let them know that that person was found guilty in court of driving or operating a motor vehicle well over 0.08. So accolades to my member there who investigated that. Pretty much lost a week of being on the road in early April to prep for the wildfire season. We're already being deployed. I just got an email this morning for 12 deployments coming up here. So probably not going to see a lot of us on the road coming up, but it just depends how bad it gets. And in the last quarter, I've done talks at the Boyle School on ATV safety. And we have one upcoming here at Edwin Park for distracted driving. That should be in early June. So we are getting into the schools. I'm also into the ones in Lac-La-Biche County, but doesn't concern you. Yeah, so some stats over the last 3 months, kind of seeing the trend of impaired driving going down. So I don't know if people are getting smarter or they're actually obeying the laws, but we had 1 IRS caution in the last 3 months. So that's somebody that blew a caution. So their blood alcohol concentration is between 60 milligrams and 99. So that's good. In the area here, we had 36 seatbelt infractions, so it is mandatory to wear your seatbelt. The only time that you're not allowed to wear it, or you're permitted not to wear it when you're moving in a vehicle, is if you're in reverse. So if you're backing into a parking stall, you can undo your seatbelt and back into the parking stall. It's kind of a common sense thing. Just don't drive down the highway at 100, Gary, in reverse. Yeah. As far as distracted driving goes, seems to kind of be a constant, so that's cell phones usage. In the last 3 months, we had 21 violations for cell phone usage. Speed, not a lot of speed. Surprisingly, it's only about 86 violation tickets in the area for the last 3 months for speed. And other tickets could be stop signs, intersections, tobacco, liquor infractions. Another one we're kind of clamping down on is the window tint. So the front 3 windows of any motor vehicle cannot be tinted. It's basically for pedestrian safety as well as officer safety, because we can't see in that vehicle. And the other thing is at nighttime when people are driving and they turn corners, they're sometimes striking pedestrians because they can't see them crossing the crosswalk or whatever, right? So we have clamped down on that a bit lately, laid a few charges for that. So last 3 months, we did 18 operations on the highway. So that's seatbelt, cell phone operations, or impaired driving check stops. We did some school zone enforcement. We did a joint force operation with the sheriffs and the school zone in Boyle. And somebody was commenting on social media that we're out there to get our quota. Just want to let them know we don't have a quota. We can write as many tickets as we want. We did 211 masses, so that's mandatory alcohol screenings. And we assisted these 2 detachments to combine of 12 times, so it'd be any calls if they needed. Of note, I received a tip from the public the other day, and I relayed the information to one of Dennis's members. And that vehicle was one that they had been looking for, and in the end, they were suspects in a few other files, but they were breaching some firearms conditions and since been remanded into custody. So those tips from the public are highly welcomed, especially when they come to my personal cell phone. What else? We did April, I think it was April 25th. We did a joint force operation on Highway 813 up near Colleen Lake with the sheriffs. We didn't get too much that day. A little bit traffic safety act stuff, but nothing major. No impaireds. No. I don't even think there was a no insurance ticket up there. So we always do at least one joint force op with the sheriffs per month. And I think that's all I got.
All right, thanks for the invite. I'll just provide a quick snapshot of the January to February, March area for us. So slower in the January. I got back up to full staff into January with Gavin, our corporal, back. New recruit came from Depot, so he's transitioned very well. I did lose one member to a transfer. So we were down one position going into the spring here. I have another one that's transitioning out, 4-year member. So our membership at Boyle is going to be very junior, 2 years minus for most of our staff, excluding the corporal and sergeant. Had a recruit anticipated to come the end of May, but they got held up till July now. So I'm losing Andy Smith, who is one of our greatest, really good addition that came to me. He's transitioning into St. Albert probably in the next month. So that's too bad. So we're going to be 2 down, 1 in the chute for July, which was better than last year because we were 3 short. So with some leave in that. So I think into the summer, we're still going to be a little bit short, just like every other department, but we'll manage. We always do.
Town halls we had in March, positive feedback for most of them. Not big crowds, but generally very positive feedback from everybody we had. I like to see the relationships grow year after year, so we're getting out there and making the faces and names known, which is good, and it gets the officers out as well and keeps our partnership strong with the other agencies when we piggyback on one another. This quarter, persons crime, I saw a decrease in this area. I attribute that a large majority of our prolific offenders, we like to call them, the ones that cause a lot of business for us. We know there are incarcerated, a majority of them right now. It's just a matter of when they rotate back out, and we monitor that just if they're on conditions and where they're going to be, because we anticipate crime to pick up in certain areas depending on when they come back. Over this period for persons crime, we saw 3 assaults. Those were very violent related, and a couple assaults weapons related, but those were all people that are familiar with each other. It wasn't stranger on stranger. 2 sexual assault related files, parties again known to each other, and some uttering threats. People get a little out of hand, say some words that they shouldn't, and might lead to an uttering threats charge. Property crime, we saw a little decline in that area. Tried to get the guys a little more in the rural patrol areas just to get the awareness and visibility out there. We had 4 break-in enters related to the Buffalo Lake area with a fire hall and a local storage yard in the rural area. We also had a report from a rural cryptocurrency mining site, which popped up when they were having some issues, and a rural shop. So isolated areas that are pretty tough for us to monitor unless we're getting reports. But if we're out in the rural areas a little bit, it's hopefully going to curb some of that opportunity. Some of the cottage rural areas are, we had Mawatha get hit. I know they had a few there. We did what we could to increase patrols there. And out of the 3 that we did get there back to back, we were able to determine some evidence to lead to some charges against one individual. That group, from what I can tell from our file load, as well as the neighboring jurisdictions, they were a group that were traveling through, not local to us. So it was crimes of opportunity, a lot of snowfall that had accumulated. They were going for vacant properties that were not attended to, and was just more of an opportunity. But with surveillance and people calling in, we were able to at least identify some of the group, which it's better than none. So we got a charge out of that. We'll hopefully get them picked up there or weren't right now. Casland area as well, a couple rural areas, county cabins, Wandering River Campground got hit. But from what I heard from some of the owners up there, they did get a vehicle in Edmonton with all the loot. So people were coming down to Edmonton and they ended up getting picked up in Edmonton with a lot of the property being recovered. So fortunate. Couple Wandering area as well with remote oil sites reporting break-in enters or some damage. Again, very rural areas and limited evidence for us to go on. For Vista Hall seems to be a problem once in a while still. No alarm, but I think it's just people going in, seeing what's in there, and it's resulting in a kicked in door. Another remote rook site got hit. Figure Lake area, there was a man of property as well in there that got hit, and then a remote area that was under renovation around 855. So you can see in our northern kind of region and to the east a bit as well, we're getting hit. So we're going to try to do what we can to focus a little bit more on those rural patrols, maybe in the grassland area, just to get that visibility out there. Other criminal code areas that we're seeing a reduction in our frauds, identity theft complaints are going down. We are getting reports, but it's not dollar losses being determined. More of people coming in and saying, hey, I was attempted to be scammed. This is what's going on, which is helping us to know what's going on. I do plan to have an educational session in June for the senior symposium regarding frauds against seniors. So I think that'll fit in very well. I know council in the village wanted that as well. So I'll be putting that on at the senior center with an organization there. I did it last year and it was a good turnout. This year we anticipate it to be bigger. So you reach a lot of people and we're hoping to curb that area a little bit more. Drug offenses, we're not getting much reports of the drug offenses, but with our increase of rural patrols, we were able to pick off a vehicle in grassland that was stolen from Fort McMurray. And a substantial amount of methamphetamine was in that with 2 arrests. So we had some good charges out of that, enough for trafficking. So somebody that was actually going to be in the sales of drugs, not just possessing for their own use. So again, out there getting lucky, that's what we want to do. A little decrease in motor vehicle collisions. I'm attributing that just from what I've been keeping on with wildlife strikes with moose and deer. A little less activity with the colder weather after Christmas. Not getting as many on the highways. Fortunately, I can report no fatal collisions over that quarter at all. No serious injuries to any of the people on their road users. Provincial traffic, little decrease in that area. I attribute that to my guys are scared of the cold. So, and I don't expect them in the severe cold weather months. Our general practice is I don't want to see the guys going out in the remote areas and getting into trouble, breaking down or posing a traffic hazard, especially on the icy roads, unnecessary risk to the vehicles and road users as well. So tend to see a decrease in those months anyway. Had a reduction in personnel too, just over the January, February months. So under provincial acts, consistent. That's mainly attributed, I think, to the mental health concerns and stuff we're getting. I know a lot of frustrations from families is they want to get help. It falls on a lot of families though. We're not the cure, but if we need to get somebody assessed mentally and we believe they're a risk to themselves, we do have powers to have them apprehended and brought to a bona fide treatment facility. The only ones that we can access here are St. Paul or the city. And if they're full, beds are full, families are usually the ones that have to take the burden of helping their own family members. So we get a lot of those calls where we check on people, you know, they may have made a comment to somebody that's in the family over Facebook or text saying, hey, I'm not feeling right. You guys probably don't need me. Stuff like that. We'll actually go check on people as a courtesy and make sure that they are doing well. And it helps out families, but it obviously creates a bit of an increase for us too. Criminal code traffic, it remains consistent. Prepared related charges from alcohol issues. We're not seeing much on the drug impairment side. Drug use, it's going on, but generally when you're running into an impaired driver, the biggest trigger for us is to go with the alcohol because that's easiest for us to detect. Suspicious vehicle complaints like Sergeant Simpkins had mentioned, that's continually going up for us, which I like to see. We had 30 suspicious vehicle persons or property occurrences, meaning somebody's calling in saying something in my neighborhood just doesn't seem right. Can you check it out? And a prime example is the other day last week, we did check it out. We had 2 prolific offenders, not from our area, that had broken down and they had modified firearms. So for property owners to be checking out these people on the road, I don't want that. Call in us, that's our job. We'll come check it out and you just don't know what you're walking into. These fellas may have been on their way to do an armed robbery. They weren't coming from one. So the grand picture for us is, I know we've prevented probably somebody getting hurt or a serious crime from actually occurring by taking these guys off the street. And it was just a phone call from the public that made that possible. So I like to see that. And I really am a big advocate as people calling us, whether they think it's wasting our time or not, let us do our job. So really good on the guys for picking up on that too. Into May, since I've been here a year, I'm getting a lot of invites to go to a lot of places now. So I know I'm a friendly guy, but it's encouraging to know that people are actually feeling comfortable reaching out to us. So, and we're going to get a little fatter because all of them are barbecues. So Long Lake, we had last week and there was a barbecue out there for the community. Our members went. I'm a big proponent that if we get invited, we will go, whether it's me or if I can't go, I will make somebody go, and they're all over that. So I had my members go down to the Long Lake community. They loved it. Boyle School invited us to their barbecue. It was actually tacos in a bag. Our guys went, they came back and said they had a blast, a lot of fun. So Blue Heron Estates this weekend, they invited us up there. They're having their AGM. Perfect. We're gonna have guys go up there, and a lot of it is they want to share information on crime trends in their area as well as preventative measures and to me, that's golden. They all have channels to me, these community groups now. Where if they have any concerns, they don't have to just call in a file. They can call in and say, do you know of anything going on? Or, hey, we're hearing about this. It's a way for me to actually get accurate information and vice versa. Already covered off the Cedar Symposium. And then I also agreed for the next couple months to take on a work experience student from Grant McEwen. She's from the Grassland area. I was approached by the college as an idea to bring in that person. So they have to do so many hours to fill out their curriculum for college. And I said, absolutely, absolutely. If there's anybody in this community that wants to have our assistance to help them with secondary education, I'll do everything we can. So that person will be starting, I think, next week, maybe at the end of this week. And then I also have them cleared security wise to jump along with Jason and his crew. Because they're also looking at that field as maybe a vocational opportunity after school to get some experience, maybe get a job in the special constable field. So, well, you'll see that phase 2 in the county, which is, to me, if we can attract them either employed through the county or employed through the RCMP, it's a win. That's one more person that can fill some boots, hopefully. So not bad over this quarter. My biggest focus into the new year, which is April to March of 2025, is high visibility, lots of community involvement, lots of school involvement, anything we're invited to, try to cultivate those relationships and then help out our partners with the traffic side as well. My expectation is everybody in my office gets the training to be on the road and writing tickets, and they try to get the impaired drivers too, depending on the call volume, but they're all young, 2 years minus now. So all of them are going to be pretty eager to probably go find trouble. So I'm pretty happy going into summer. We're going to have a young crew, but they're all new to the job and they just want to give her. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, I can tell you about my office. Reynolds did some this year with lighting, and right after me a long weekend, you'll see it looks like our ground's getting ripped up because I have Mr. V's actually going to be doing some pretty decent landscaping for us. So it'll be hopefully one of those buildings you drive through in the summer and see a big change. Kind of putting lipstick on myself, making me look better. So I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty pumped about that. It was my goal last year, but I didn't want to get in trouble spending too much money. So that was my goal this year, is to do the outside of the building. So hopefully by June, sometime in June, landscaping will be done and it'll be really, really nice.
Well, I think you're keeping up with the courthouse. There looks like they're under a bit of a renovation there too. It's good to show pride in public buildings, and I think it's a bit of a compliment that you're getting junior officers and they're getting trained to the point that somebody else wants them and will take them. If you were doing a, not such a good job, they'd probably be stuck with you. So I think you should look at that as a good thing. And I'll open the floor to council for questions, but I have a couple I'd like to lead with, and that is the crypto mining that you mentioned, is that in the county or is that somewhere else?
That was up by Warner River. I think I was talking to Ivan about that. I wasn't too aware. I know we had one when I was in the Westlock jurisdiction when they took over an old gas well site. So they brought in semi-traders that were essentially generators. And I don't really understand that, but it's essentially computers running all the time, generating all these math equations. So
it's the there's been a company out of Vancouver that's been fined because of being in Westlock County, and I think somewhere near Sturgeon, and noise complaints and all that. So it was on my list of, I wonder when this is coming to Athabasca County. So I guess.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't regulate that, and it's not something that we can monitor, but
something for the council to think of. I know Sergeant Simpkins, it's nice to hear, we often hear kind of, here's what we've got at the beginning, and it's nice to hear that there's been some successful conclusions to some of the pickups you've made, that it's not some get out of jail free or walk away. And Staff Sergeant Hall, I know Councillor Minns and I were up at the meeting with the summer villages in the west, and I think Island Lake South was looking for a meeting. I've spoken to the mayor there, and there's a desire kind of to include some of the county people who are in that area. They have some concerns about property crime, and I think that spills over municipal boundaries. Can you give us any updates on where that's at and when that's coming?
I was gonna do a town hall out there. I was supposed to, wanted to meet with the community on last Saturday of with the specific with the mayors and the CAO out there, but it didn't happen because of our ongoing file here. I was planning on having another town hall this week, but that's gonna have to be pushed off. But I'm gonna in the near future here, we're gonna be talking having a virtual plus in-person town hall, and we'll have that open discussion about what's been going on in that area there. I will say that along the lines of what Dennis was saying about the people in the area there, it seems that the break-in enters and things that are happening in that area were transient people as well. So it's definitely, discussions coming up very shortly here. Just a matter of me getting to be able to get it put together real quick.
Okay. Floor is open. Other questions? Counselor Cromwell.
Well, I'd like to begin by thanking not only the RCMP, but our friends from Search and Rescue and local emergency services and everyone that has been out there for many, many days and all the hard work that's done. And hopefully there's a positive resolution, but we thank you guys for keeping it up and doing what you do. As for Boyle, Constable Smith has been a great addition to this community. And please pass on, at least for me, a very heartfelt thank you for all the hard work he has done here. Definitely not one of the constables we like to see go, but wish him all the best in the future. So thank you very much.
Other questions? It was fairly thorough report, lots of good work. I don't think we have a load of questions for you, but I think sometime, given your comments about barbecue, we should book your delegation at 11:30 and then we can recess for lunch together. And there's a barbecue out front. Again, as always, I appreciate the mentoring that occurs in the community involvement, both in Boyle and in Athabasca. We see that, and I hear from other people the difference it makes when your team members are out. But I think Councillor Minns has a question.
Not a question, just a thank you to all of you. Again, I'm a huge proponent on getting into the schools and talking to the young people and that, and I want to thank you very much for that. I wrote down here, invite more times and keep inviting, eh? I think that's a great way of looking at it, that getting out in the community and that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in a couple of months and hopefully sooner at all these community events and not on the side of the road. I did check my pink card when you said that. It's valid. Yeah, till the end of the month. Okay, council, we are on item number 7.2. I think let's take we need Chief Shalapai. He's on the way. So let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back at 2:15. And I'd like to reconvene the March 14th County Council meeting. March, why I keep saying March? Sorry, it's the May 14th County Council meeting. Maybe I have to get Leah to make it a little bit more clear on my agenda for the future. The next item of business is 7.2 Northwest Alberta Emergency Resource Agreement. And I added this to the agenda, but asked if Chief Shalapai would present the item to council before we take a motion. Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Reeve Hall. So the Northwest Alberta Emergency Resource Agreement was an agreement that we came across through our ongoing work with the Fire Services Master Plan. So the master plan that Chief Cocotillo provided to us that we accepted previously did acknowledge the fact that, as with a lot of county elements, we had a lot of handshake agreements, but not a lot of formal agreements in place with our neighboring partners. So work has been on the go slowly, picking away at our neighboring municipalities, looking for to enter into formal agreements. As we reached out to Lesser Slave and the MD of Opportunity, they brought forward this agreement as a recommendation versus entering into separate agreements. As this is a collective agreement of 35 municipalities in the Northwest. So currently we are part of the Borderlands Agreement, which represents the Northeast. So the RMWB, Lac La Biche County, Westlock County are part of the Borderlands Agreement, which covers one half of us. But our entire western and northern sections were part of this Northwest Resource Agreement. So finding this agreement, reaching out to the owners of this agreement, which is High Level, they were quite excited to have us join into the big group. As we face tougher years, it's good to have a large community of resources we can call upon. So we were very excited to be offered the ability to join this agreement. So that's why we bring it to council today as a really good way for us to start partnering up with our neighbors and becoming part of the larger community.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Councillor Anderson?
I move that council authorize Athabasca County's participation in the Northwest Alberta Emergency Resource Agreement, a multi-municipality mutual agreement for the Northwest region of Alberta.
So Councillor Anderson has moved the recommended motion, which is council authorize the county's participation in the Northwest Alberta Emergency Resource Agreement, a multi-municipality mutual aid for the Northwest region of Alberta. Discussion. Floor is open. Okay, if you're ready for the question is on the adoption of the motion that council authorize Athabasca County's participation in the Northwest Alberta Emergency Resource Agreement, a multi-municipality mutual aid agreement for Northwest Alberta. All those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Thank you for that proactive work, Chief Shalapai. Next item on the agenda is 7.3. This is here because there is no clear recommendation. It's seeking discussion and direction from council on priorities that might hit your that might be council's priorities for that opportunity. So I think this is a moment where we would need to open the floor for discussion just to get some direction. Is there any comments? Councillor Holland?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know it hasn't been a discussion here at council, but to open this up, there's one of the things that I personally have seen that I would like to see some more advocacy for, and that is the municipal public lands be added as an eligibility criteria to some of the grants that we're looking at that only include public lands, which is Crown lands. So we're missing a lot of that opportunity to have development for trails as one example. I'll just go with that because that's one of the things I know about in this area that we're looking at for different eligibilities. And to only be able to use Crown land really ties our hands when we have undeveloped road allowances that may be able to be used, but it's not part of that grant.
So just going to restate what I think I heard, just because this is more of a discussion, but
right.
Crown lands are eligible for some things, but if it's land owned by the municipality, even though it's public land, it's not
correct
treated in the same basket.
Absolutely. Okay. And that would be something I think would be extremely beneficial in our community and others across the province to be able to access some of that funding for development within our own communities.
Other comments, unless there's objections from council, I think on an item like this, we've got a couple minutes we can bounce back more than once. Councillor Anderson, the floor is yours.
Thanks. If given the opportunity, I would like to see some advocacy around consideration for the infrastructure that's required for operations such as a lumber mill. I mean, obviously, they need quite a bit of road and bridges and all those things just to be able to operate and to reach, bring the resources to the mill. And so I think bringing to the attention that that bridge may only be really utilized for some oil field and for their operations, but it's essential to the operations.
So to clarify, are you thinking like increased funding for that type of stuff through the STIP program or?
Maybe just more awareness so that they're not forgotten about, as the government. I know they've discussed wanting to look at resource roads so that different highways are prioritized based on the resources that are transported on them. And I think that considering that it's not just highways that resources are transported on, just to bring it to their attention so they don't get forgotten about.
Other thoughts? I mean, to address the first comment, I think it seems pretty reasonable to me that to advocate in terms of considering municipal land as part of the criteria, or treating it similar to Crown land. That I think that seems like a pretty good idea and would allow some flexibility. I feel sometimes, as we work together, there's things you see that are just constrained by silly rules or silly grant stuff that doesn't quite work, the example I can think of is at when the regional multiplex had applied for some grant funding on their solar energy. They had to do something that was less than optimal in order to get the grant, but spending the similar money on a different mounting system could have created a much more efficient system. But because the grant tied them to some sort of a combination of progress but bad decisions, or progress but a slower rate. And, here it seems like Councillor Holland has brought up progress, but with some hobbles. I, of course, haven't spoken to anybody here about this, but Councillor Minns and I were at a Summer Village meeting on Saturday. And just listening to the discussion around the table, and one of the things that I thought would actually just be handy for everybody is if the alignment on the forest protection area was moved east for about a 2-mile stretch, half a mile, and make it a nice straight line. And then it would also mean everybody in that district was in the same fire protection zone, including our acreage subdivisions. And because there are some weird things that go on where literally on 2 different sides of the street, the fire rules, one person can have a campfire and the other person can't. And that obviously doesn't look optically, the optics on that aren't brilliant. But that's something that I think would warrant more discussion at our table, and clearly talking with the one Summer Village that might be impacted, because I think Sunset Beach is out of the protection area and everybody else is in, unless the line on the map is.
Other than Whispering Hills is outside of the forest protection area too.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe
and pretty sure the forest protection area would want to go west.
Well,
We
I mean,
want
to
them to go
the east
east, but
means
they-
the government pays the fee if there's anything going on.
Yeah, that's why they go around some of the bigger subdivisions, but yeah, it'd be very good there. We have a chunk of road. I know it's in the limelight here every once in a while, going down to what we call the forestry road, and that actually piggybacks on what Councillor Anderson was talking about funding for that road. Had it handed to us by the government, and now it's nothing but horrible. So
Just for those of us without the intimate knowledge of every mile of road in the county that you have, could you just help us where that one is?
that one there is it's just before Brainett, and it goes.
It goes out to toward the river.
Yeah, it goes west down to the river.
Like
and
10 miles of.
Yeah, of 30 some kilometers of road that was somehow through agreements was given to Athabasca County as a resource road, and And there's 3 bridge files on it. And I think now all 3 bridge files are toast. And there's deeded land down at the bottom and 3/4. I think it'd honestly be cheaper to buy them 3/4 and cut the road off than it would be to keep that
Maintain.
road open, but it's just funding for that road that's gotten laid onto Athabasca County that there was a gravel pit down there also. And that gravel pit is depleted, so there's no gravel left in there. It's just another sore spot in Athabasca counties, and that we have to maintain this. And it's been an issue, so.
Councillor Cromwell.
We might want to talk about that road later on. I have been talking with the ratepayers that have those quarters down there because of access. And actually their development permit tells them very clearly that we will not maintain that road. And I'm speaking with the director. She's under the belief now that we do not own that section of road, that we never did take it over from the province. So that is actually still provincial road after the first 3K approximately up there. So there's different
That sounds like a sort of a unique silo discussion we should
Yeah.
definitely have that doesn't fit the mandate of this.
No, but
this is
so
a-
for information,
Yeah.
because it's something we're gonna want to bring
Yeah,
back.
no,
and chat
and I
about.
agree. That sounds like a good idea to. So that, won't get into the details on that one until we've had a more extensive discussion. Other thoughts or anything in particular that makes sense? Councillor Wallach, sorry.
And I guess just highlighting what we have in our area with Alpac and looking at potential investments with value added products to the wood industry and pulp. What can we do here that's already here, kind of thing. So just letting them know what we have in case they come across something that can come create an industry here.
Perfect. Any further comments? Kind of the high level stuff that I'll say then that I'll take away is to talk about the, in general terms, idea of municipal public lands being explored as a possibility on some of the grant criteria. And maybe Councillor Holland and I can she can brief me on that a little bit more thoroughly later, but also talking about how our infrastructure on resource roads is important and critical. And a focus on the potential that exists in our region for value add and expanding on the resources that we have. Okay. Is there a motion then to, I think, just to receive that for information? Councillor Mins has made a motion to receive that discussion item for information. All those in favor? Opposed?
No, sorry.
Yes, so the count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. We are at item 7.8. Councillor Holland, do you have a motion you want to make?
Yes, I guess the motion that's right as per the recommendation.
So Councillor Holland has moved to receive the letter of support for information. Councillor Holland, the floor is yours.
I was just wondering, and again, I realize the letter's gone, it's out, but I'm wondering if this is, because we haven't heard formally that the Traffic Act isn't going to change to accommodate the proposed trail. I'm wondering if this allows us to request or maybe have an informal conversation, but open the door at looking to expand the trail from Jackfish Lake through the Crown land. According to, I think I put it together on that 36-page report that I had done for the Tri-Council meeting, but just to open the door and have that conversation. I realize, I think it's great that they're expanding and wanting to use more equipment and get out there to Jackfish Lake, but there's so much more opportunity that I can see, and I'm hoping that we can monopolize on that, especially considering the grant funding that is available to the snowmobile associations through the province right now. Now that I think next 2 years is left, but there was, the $8 million the province was putting towards public lands developments for trails. So
Would you feel like that's sort of more appropriately housed in a strategic planning and priority
that's-
section?
yeah, that's what
And
yeah,
But I like the idea of kind of floating it so everybody has a chance to think about it.
right. Yeah.
Uh,
That's just the only thing, was just to bring some awareness that there's some more, possible more opportunities, and hopefully we can have that, open that door and have that conversation.
Yep, I think I mean, personally, I think that's a great idea, and I think that'd be a good. We should
Yes.
allocate some time to that when we do our strat planning. Is there further discussion on the motion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of the motion to receive the letter of support for information, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. We are at item number 8.1. This is the bylaw from the public hearing. Is there a motion to give second reading to bylaw 005? Councillor Cromwell has moved second reading of 005-2024 aligned use bylaw amendment for portions of the Northwest 27-69-17-4 from agriculture district to campground commercial district. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. On the question of the adoption of the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and second reading has passed. Is there anyone willing to move third reading? Councillor Chamzuk has moved third and final reading of bylaw 005-2024. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of the motion to give third and final reading to 005-2024, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and third reading has passed. The next item on our agenda is item number 8.2. That is seeking third reading of bylaw 006-2024. Councillor Gerlich, are you willing to move? So willing to. Councillor Gerlich has moved third reading of 006-2024. This is the bylaw to do lot consolidation in the hamlet of Perryville. Is there any discussion on that matter? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of the motion for third reading of 006-2024, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and third reading is adopted. The next item on our agenda is item 8.3, and that is bylaw 007-2024, third and final reading of a bylaw to deal with inoperative, obsolete, expired, spent, and ineffective bylaws. I was asked if I would read them all off to you before we get going. Is there anyone willing to move third reading? Councillor Holland has moved. Is there any discussion on that? The option to read them is available. Okay, on the question of the adoption of third reading of 007-2024, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Item number 8.4 is a request from administration. Director Wilkinson, do you want to speak to this one and the subsequent one, bylaws 009-2024, since they're sort of in parallel?
Thank you. Yeah, so landowner came forward. There's some properties up in that Wandering River area that are zoned heavy industrial. I think that, you know, in the past, there was a vision for some industrial development in that area. These folks would like to move these lands back to the Ag District so that they could move forward with appropriate development in the future.
Is there anyone willing to give first reading to bylaw 008-2024 and also to further to schedule, direct admin to schedule a public hearing on June 11th? Councillor Chamzuk, the recommended motion? Councillor Chamzuk has moved that council give first reading to bylaw 008-2024, a land use bylaw amendment for the Southwest 35-71-17-4 from heavy industrial M2 to agriculture A district, and also to direct admin to schedule and advertise a public hearing on June 11th, 2024 at 9:30 for the bylaw 008-2024. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Item number 8.5 is substantially similar. It's across the road. Councillor Cromwell would like to move first reading of bylaw 0092024, a land use bylaw amendment for the west, southeast 357117-4 from heavy industrial M2 to district to agriculture, A district, and to direct admin to schedule and advertise a public hearing on June 11th, 2024 at 9:35 a.m. 9:40 a.m. They won't take more than 10 minutes. At 9:40 a.m. for bylaw 0092024. Any discussion? On the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. 8.6. Is the 2024 tax rate bylaw. CEO, did you want to speak to this before we seek motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just waiting for Mr. MTS to get here, but I can certainly introduce the item. This tax rate bylaw really just implements the final budget the council has adopted and also implements the change to the ratio on non-res to res. Council expressed a desire to move to 3.8 to 1 ratio from 3.7. So that's implemented in this bylaw. And also this is the first year of allowing for the small business tax rate. And so we've got a number of people that applied before the deadline. So that's incorporated in the tax rate bylaw as well.
Is there anyone willing to move first reading of the tax rate bylaw? Councillor Anderson. Councillor Anderson has moved to pass first reading of bylaw 0102024, the tax rate bylaw as presented. Mr. Imtaz, did you have any comments you wanted to make?
No, Mr. Chair, that,
Council, any discussion on the motion? Councillor Holland.
Thank you. I just had a quick question with regards to the non-residential small business tax incentive. Was it 25%? What was the?
It's that the tax rate is at 75% of the other rate.
Oh,
So it's,
thank you.
which is the same as it's 25% reduction, but
Okay,
it's worded at 75% of the subclass gets 75% of the main rate.
Which is the maximum allowed by the legislation,
okay.
the maximum reduction allowed.
Because when I just did a quick calculation between non-residential and then non-residential small business, I get a 28.57% difference. So that's why I was wondering.
Did you calculate that?
The non-residential at 0.017785 on page 226 compared to the non-residential
No,
small business at 0.013339. I'm seeing a 28.57. My math is wrong, but I just thought I would toss it out there and see what if I'm not calculating that accurately. From 0.17785 to 0.11339. Yeah.
Nope, I work, if you divide the bottom one, like the 0.13 by the 0.17, it's 75.00%. On this calculator. Might not be right. I think we're okay. Any further discussion? I looked at the list and I think in the next upcoming years, we'll see the non-residential rates grow. And I again want to congratulate council on having the courage to be kind of progressive in that with that bylaw. The question is on the adoption of first reading of bylaw 0102024. Are you ready for the question? I think that's a yes. So the question is on the adoption of that motion. On the passing of first reading is 0102024. All those in favor? Opposed? So the count is 7-2 and the motion is adopted. On the question of second reading, is anyone willing to move second reading? Councillor Kapachak has moved second reading of 0102024. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Mintz.
I don't know if I can ask this question right now or not. What is our taxes going up? Like, what is 2.9?
I did a little looking.
And my math was wrong before, so I'm hazarding.
Yeah. Well, before I start doing my math.
I didn't calculate. I think, I mean, there's two pieces of it. There's the change in the rate and there's a change in the assessment. And so, I didn't calculate, but the CAO might know off the top of his head, the difference in the mill rate from one year to the other on the residential.
Yeah, the problem is, if we say a certain percentage, your assessment might have gone up a little bit, and so the percentage might not be as great, but the other person's
Oh, okay.
might have stayed flat, so in general, what we were shooting for about 3%, which was what the 3% was at the interim, but that's based on an average, and so some people are going to be affected more and some actually less. Some might be fine.
Okay.
But and it all depends on your assessment. So for someone to say that there's a rate that's going to apply across the board and that's all we're committing to would be incorrect information.
Okay, good. Perfect. Fair enough. Thank you. So we have the question of adoption of second reading of the tax rate bylaw in front of us. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Capitano.
I'm also glad that this council chose to give a break to small business. I'm surprised to see only 4 small businesses take advantage of that, and this is a first year of the program. So I hope that with this and you know, speaking to people in your district and just letting them know what the options are available, I would not be surprised if a lot of people didn't know they had the option. And so just being a little more mindful of that for next year.
I'm hoping it's in the flyer that goes out with the notices.
That would be great. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
time for,
And it's wonderful. It's just like, yeah, I think we need to get the word out as well. Thank you.
it's a bit operational, but I think it's time for a new version of that document. I've seen the same one for the last 15 years. On the question of the adoption of second reading of 0102024, all those in favor? Opposed? Count is 7-2 and the motion is adopted. Calendars. I don't think there'll be unanimous consent to go to 3 readings, and as we've previously discussed, I think we've got a special meeting scheduled to pass the third and final reading in 2 days. Calendars is number 9.1. Okay, so let's start, let's get this one done before lunch. Councillor Cromwell, do you want to lead?
Just wondering through the chair to Councillor Gerlach, if we can move MPC from the 28th to a time during or before the council meeting on the 30th.
Let's let Director Wilkinson speak to that, and then we'll come back to it before we, I'm sure Ms. Blair will send her an instant message. Councillor Gerlach or Cromwell, other items to add to the agenda? Or not to the agenda, but to the. Or June? June the 7th is a plan for. Okay. Blue hair, sorry, on the 7th. Okay. Councillor Capitano.
Sure, sorry. Those are 10 a.m. 10 a.m. it was well.
Okay. Councillor Anderson. On June 19th and 20th, we should note that that's convocation for Athabasca University, and that will be in town. And while I haven't had a formal request yet, I think there may be forthcoming a request for council to consider our ability to come help serve breakfast at one of those days. I don't know that that's, I haven't seen that yet, but I understand that may be coming. There might be something else, yeah. And then on the 19th is the AFPA. That's that thing we talked about a couple of minutes ago that I'll attend. And I had a note on here that says items to prepare for strat planning. So I wanted to encourage everybody to start thinking about the strat planning session that we've got booked, which is coming up in May on the 23rd, thinking about road options for hard surfacing, and other big picture things that matter as we try to outline the priorities for the remainder of the term. And that's all that I have on the list. Councillor Wallach.
May 28th, healthcare retention meeting, 10:30. And they are doing their annual barbecue for healthcare on the 31st at lunchtime down at the riverfront.
Councillor Champs. Councillor Holland.
Good, thanks. Oh,
Councillor Champs.
I apologize, sorry. Sorry. If we were to-
Microphone, please. Sorry.
Or to serve breakfast. I am available only on the 20th, just to let you know.
Okay. They haven't, there hasn't been an ask. I just, Councillor Holland was good. Councillor Mins. And then we'll come back to Councillor Capitan.
I guess the only one I really have is May 7th, that Water Commission meeting was canceled. So we didn't have it. So,
Already was councillor.
yeah. So
Councillor Holland.
other than that,
Sorry, I just remembered in June, June 1st, we had a motion, this was back a little bit, but we had a motion for the cleanup. So June 1st is the Trans-Canada Trail Spring Care Cleanup. So June 1st will be Collinton and Manuck. June 15th will be Perryvale and Rochester. And I'll chat with the CAO afterwards with regards to the ad or the call out for volunteers that similar to what we did last year.
Aren't Perryvale and Rochester part of our Hamlet cleanup program?
They possibly could be, but this is strictly for trail.
Okay. Coming back around, we're still waiting on the MPC question. Councillor Kapitanek, I said.
It's on Thursday at 10 a.m. That's not on there.
16th. Athabasca Regional Economic Development Committee, 10 a.m.
And our agenda says here.
Okay. I promise the special meeting will be very short because there's one item on the agenda. CAO, do we know, is Ms. Blair able to give, or Ms. Blair, Ms. Wilkinson Director Wilkinson able to give us any advice on MPCs?
Like, we're just not sure how many items we'll have, but maybe we do agree, switch it before that council meeting and just switch the start time for the council meeting to 10. And if we have to have a bit of a break in between, so be it. You're right, it's probably a far more efficient use of everyone's time and resources.
So we'll move MPC to 9:30 on the 28th and council to 10. And then
On the 30th?
on the 30th, sorry, yeah, MPC moved from the 28th to the 30th. And council to 10 a.m. And Councillor Gerlich, maybe see if you can stretch that meeting out to use that time that's available to you.
You have that.
That works. Any other things, Councillor Cromwell? Nope. Okay. Motion to adopt the calendars as amended. Councillor Cromwell has moved. We adopt the calendars as amended. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Next. We'll nail off 11.1 and then we can enter into closed session and take a break for lunch.
Go ahead.
Does that work? Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh,
11.1.
sorry. For FCSS, we have our county annual report coming out soon. As for the FCSAA, sorry, meeting elections coming up, strat plan and working microsite and toolkit coming up in attendance at our meeting. MLA Shane Getson and Ryan Sear were also in attendance. The advocacy committee is working hard. We have not seen a large sale funding increase for 9 years. Many of the sessions at the meeting were based on being trauma informed and resilience. And November conference will be the 13th to the 15th, and resolution packages will be soon sent out.
To the applicant, thanking him. So it is 35 minutes after 1. We've just left closed session. Councillor Anderson has made a motion to send a letter to the applicant thanking him for his interest and inviting him to reapply after October of 2025. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Councillor Anderson is, no, Councillor Cromwell made a motion to direct the committee members, the joint rec committee members, to direct the committee members to share council's comments with the joint rec committee. So to direct the committee members to share council's comments with the joint rec committee. Any discussion on that? Is that clear enough? All those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Councillor Anderson has moved that regarding 13.3, that the county council seeks intervenor status in accordance with section 508 of the Municipal Government Act in the 2024 designated industrial property assessment complaint, Alberta Pacific Forest Industries, DIP AUIDS, and it's 498291014. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, if you're ready for the question on the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. There is no further business on our agenda, so I will declare the meeting adjourned at 1:37.